Joining me now is Maryland Democratic Congressman Glenn Ivey. He's a member of the House Ethics Committee that prepared the report on Congressman Santos. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start right there. In the wake of your resolution, or in the wake of your findings, there's now a resolution to expel Congressman Santos brought by your committee chairman, Michael Guest. Do you plan to support this resolution?
I do, and I voted in favor of the last resolution to expel that came up about 2 weeks ago. But I had the benefit of the information that was in this report. Not all of my colleagues did. So I think 182 Republicans voted against that resolution to expel. The question will be how many of those shift from no to yes, because you need 2/3 to expel them. We'll have to see if there's enough that switch over to get it done.
Congressman, I'm curious for your take, though. You're obviously talking to your colleagues. Do you get the sense that there will be the 2/3 vote to expel Congressman Santos?
You know, I'm not exactly sure because everybody's left town, but I mean, I think it's certainly moving in that direction. I think the report really laid out in very clear terms the sort of the range and the scope and the, I don't want to say depravity, but, you know, the gravity of the misconduct, the criminal acts. I'm not sure everybody knew all of that from before. Certainly the indictments captured a lot of it, but I think the report gave it more detail and more color. And so people, I think, have a better understanding of all the misconduct that was involved here. And I think that may move a fair number of these votes. Interesting.
Well, I'm curious for your take on your experience. You're obviously a freshman. This is one of the first big ethics probes that you've been a part of. What were your big takeaways from this investigation?
Well, I mean, you know, I thought the Ethics Committee staff was outstanding. You know, we get a lot of criticism about the lack of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill, and rightly so, certainly in the House of Representatives. But I think the Ethics Committee, the staff, and the committee members came together and showed the level of work product that we can put out when we work together, and I think that was a big step in the right direction. The other part, though, I thought was I was a little surprised that, you know, all of this got past whoever was doing the research for the opposing candidates and the media in New York apparently missed quite a bit. And, you know, there needs to be some, I would say, soul searching, certainly from the media standpoint, because a lot of this stuff was, you know, we needed subpoenas to get the information, but not all of it. There was a lot of this that was in plain sight. And I think we need to do more to vet our candidates as they move forward in the election process.
Well, let me ask you about a line in your report that really got our attention. You say the committee also identified additional errors and omissions in Congressman Santos's 2020 and 2022 statements, as well as violations on federal law and House rules related to his unfiled 2021 and 2023 financial disclosure statements, which were not charged in the indictment. It raises the question, Congressman, did you uncover more potential crimes than have already been revealed?
We did, and, you know, the issue, I think, is going to be whether the Department of Justice wants to add those charges. It may be that they already were aware of these and decided not to include them in their superseding indictment. They already have a 23-count indictment that, you know, I think lays out a lot of these charges. But again, we have an outstanding staff that uncovered additional information that they might find useful if they decide to really flesh out their case and add these additional charges, because I think they go further in showing his awareness of what was going on with respect to these campaign finance accounts and bank accounts, to the extent the defense is going to be something along the lines of, I didn't know that this was going on, or, you know, I left that to my treasurer or other campaign assistants or volunteers. I think a lot of this information helps to dispel that. So we'll see what the Department of Justice does, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are additional charges that come out. Is there any specific example you can give us? Well, there's a bunch of them. A lot of them go to the documents that were, filed. And, the campaign, the Ethics Committee staff approached it from the opposite angle because they started with the ethics violations and started working backwards from there. I don't know that the Department of Justice would have done that. They probably looked more at the original criminal charges. But a lot of the omissions, the falsified reports that were submitted to the FEC and the like, I think are part of that. They, lead to false statement charges potentially, but also I think show the misconduct that was involved and also his attempt to hide that. And at the same time, his awareness of what was going on with respect to him receiving the funds that were not, used for campaign finance, and also him trying to hide the fact that he was getting it in his personal accounts and using it for personal purposes only. So I think there's a range of those that we'll see what the Department of Justice does, but we've given them, I think, sufficient information for them to sift through and decide if they want to add more charges or not.
Well, we will track it quite closely. Congressman, thank you. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Appreciate your joining us.
You do the same.
Thanks, Congressman.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.